If I have a black female surgeon, my first assumption will be this person had to meet lower standards because the school or the certifying board was so anxious to say we have a black female surgeon. And of course, it's unfair to the individual, but then the whole system is unfair. So should you be shocked that it produces unfair results? No. I mean, it's unfair.
It is unfair on the face of it and in practice and every other possible.
So you all just heard that piece of trash right there coming from that sitting, walking piece of excrement himself, Tucker Carlson, and none of us are even remotely surprised. As a matter of fact, by the time y'all see this video, that you would have already heard what he had to say about this. And this is a video that I wasn't even planning on doing, but because one of my subscribers had left a comment under one of my videos asking me about it, and referring to a comment that someone had left in the response that they have received, I said, let me go ahead and look into it further. And as I was reading through some of the comments, that's actually what made me want to do this video, because I'm going to show you a little later on, once I get to that part of the video, which will be towards the end, the hypocrisy is coming from people who subscribe to the Tucker Carlson rhetoric. And I mean, the hypocrisy was so blatant. They probably were so wrapped up with what he said that when they was leaving some of those comments, they didn't even realize they were being hypocritical. But that's his audience for you. So this small clip that's only about 21 seconds long is a small part of a much larger interview that he did. I'm not sure who the guy was that he was speaking with, but you heard Tucker Carlson there basically saying that if he had a black female surgeon, he wouldn't be able to trust her because he would be under the assumption that they had to lower the standards in order for her to practice medicine or to become a surgeon. And again, they're still going on this DEI thing. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, I thought y'all quote unquote got rid of DEI. But the more and more they keep talking about it, the more and more I know that they didn't get rid of it. And the thing is, they need DEI to continue being a talking point so they can use that as a code speak term for black people. Let's be real here. Even after we have proven and shown time and time again by studies that are conducted by people who look like them, that DEI benefits white women the most, just like it did with CRT, just like it did with affirmative action. They still continue to be on this kick that DEI means black. And the thing is, Tucker Carlson basically said it right here without actually saying it. He just said the same thing. This is like when you had Charlie Kirk sitting up there saying he wouldn't trust a black pilot, or when you had some other, I think Charlie Kirk also said something about the doctor, was it Matt Walsh? Listen, at this point, their talking points like crash into each other. I keep forgetting who said what because they all start to sound the same. They literally get tangled up with each other, but they all come out to the same tired ass outcome. Now, what I decided to do was my own due diligence, and that was a little bit of research, something that Tucker Carlson, we know, does not seem to know how to do, even though the research is free and right there at his own fingertips. So what I decided to do was just go onto Google and ask a couple of questions and see what the AI had to say about it. So the first thing I decided to go on to Google and was asking is, how many black female surgeons are there in the US? And this is what came up. It says, while precise numbers fluctuate, black women are underrepresented in surgery, with data suggesting that in 2019, only 0.6% of neurosurgeons were black women, and black women make up about 1.7% of all practicing surgeons. Then it broke it down to even more details. Under overall representation, it said black women comprise a small percentage of practicing surgeons in the US alone, with data from 2019 indicating that they make up roughly 1.7% of all surgeons. Under neurosurgery, within neurosurgery, a highly specialized field, only 0.6% of neurosurgeons are black women. Under other surgical specialties, while specific data for other surgical specialties is less readily available, the trend of underrepresentation of black women persists across without surgical fields. Excuse me, on my side the screen's a little dark. Academic surgical faculty. Studies indicate that black or African American women, or Foundation of Black American Women, are also underrepresented at all levels of surgical faculty, with only 0.7% of U.S. medical school surgical faculty being black or FBA women. And then they give examples of the type of, like, the women. They mentioned a woman named Tamia Potter, and then they mentioned another part in 2017. There were only 6 female black American cardiothoracic surgeons practicing in the United States. So when you look into all of that and you look at those numbers, that is very low, especially the part where it says only 0.6% are in neurosurgery alone. And then overall, only 1%, no matter what field of surgery they are in or surgeon, only 1.7% are represented by Black women. So when you put that into perspective, that makes what Tucker Carlson said a bunch of BS. But the thing is, you didn't even need this to let you know that's exactly what it is. But you know what? My research didn't stop there. I decided to take it a step further and say, what does it take, or what are the qualifications does it take to in order to become a surgeon in the US? Because under Tucker Carlson's his ideology is that they've lowered the standards in order for Black women to become a surgeon. So let's look and see what it takes to qualify to even become a surgeon, because that's not just a job that they hand out to any and everybody. It says to become a surgeon, you need a bachelor's degree, a medical degree, MD or DO, and then complete a residency and potentially a fellowship, followed by board certification. And then it broke it down into details. Education and training, you need a bachelor's degree. It says earn a bachelor's degree often in science related field like biology, chemistry, or pre-med, also known as the School of STEM. Medical school, complete a 4-year medical school program earning either a Doctor of Medicine or MD, or a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine or a DO degree. A residency. After medical school, surgeons must complete a residency program in surgery, which typically lasts 5 to 7 years depending on the surgical specialty. A fellowship, which is optional. For certain surgical subspecialties, additional training in a fellowship program, 1 to 3 years, is required. And then it goes into licensing and certification. Obtain a license and practice medicine in the state where you intend to work. Board certification. While not always required, board certification by the American Board of Surgery, or ABS, is highly recommended and demonstrates specialized competence in surgery. Number 3, key skills and traits. Strong analytical and problem-solving skills. Surgeons must be able to diagnose, plan, and execute complex procedures. Excellent communication and interpersonal skills. Surgeons need to effectively communicate with patients, families, and others healthcare professionals. Dexterity and precision. Surgeons must have a high level of manual dexterity and precision for surgical procedures. Resilience and stamina. The demanding nature of surgery requires surgeons to be resilient and able to handle long hours and stressful situations. And it ends off with commitment to lifelong learning. The field of surgery is constantly evolving, so surgeons must be committed to continuous learning and professional development. So with all of that, again, a lot of people probably wouldn't even get past the first part. Look at all the requirements and all the steps that need to be taken in order to become a surgeon. That's a lot. And I learned years ago, before I was even in college, that in order to become a doctor, you had to do some extra amount of schooling. As a matter of fact, I think to be a doctor and, be anywhere in the medical field, that's probably the longest form of schooling out of any type of post high school or post grad, I should say, learning that you will ever have to do. That is why these doctors get paid the way that they do. Because your life, someone's life is literally in their hands. So in order to make sure that they're taking care of everything properly, you have to make sure you are doing point A all the way to point Z and then back to point A flawlessly. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of long hours. But once you do all of that, it will have paid off. But I decided, you know what? Let me continue to do my research here. Again, something Tucker Carlson seems to not want to do because he's already have his preconceived notions laid right out for him in that smooth brain of his. I decided to go ahead and ask the main question. How many white surgeons are there in the US? And this is what I found. In 2023, approximately 56.5% of active physicians in the US identified as white. Now that's a combination of men and women, but also peep though, identified as white. So these are people that probably don't look phenotypically white, but they probably put white down on the applications. I'm side-eyeing you, south of the Borderian. While this data includes all physicians, not just surgeons, it provides a general overview of the racial composition of the healthcare workforce, which can be used to infer the likely proportion of white surgeons. And then it says a detailed breakdown. Overall physician workforce, 56.5% is white, 18.8% is Asian, 6.3% is Hispanic or Latino, and coming at the end as far as one main demographic, 5.2% Black or African American or FBA. And that's a combination of men and women. Remember, Black women make up 0.6% of neurosurgeons and 1.7% of all surgeons, no matter what field they're in. And the remaining percentage is Black men. And even with that, Black is still at the end. Now, the last one that says less than one is multiracial, other, American Indian, Alaskan. And I just call that the other category. But really, if you took that last part off, Black people are last as far as neurosurgeons. But also pay attention to, look at the wide margin it is between white surgeons and even Asian surgeons. Look at how huge that gap is. That's a wide margin. So if it's a wide margin from white surgeons to Asian ones, it's a huge gap between Black surgeons and white surgeons. A huge gap. I just wanted to point that out there because, again, Tucker Carlson ain't going to do the research. So now that I've gone through all of that, let me show you some of the responses that were left under the post and just show you how hypocritical Tucker Carlson's or some of his audience actually is. So this was one comment right here. So it came from this person. I guess their username is Altermis13. They said, as a Black man, when I see a white doctor, I automatically think this person will not be able to treat me. Now, for all we know, this person may not even be a Black man, because a lot of times whenever I see a comment that starts off with as a Black man or as a Black woman, I automatically side eye, because typically a lot of times they are not. But I think either this person is either actually Black or they're not Black and they were trolling to see what kind of response they were going to get. And either way, it worked, because the first comment says why, and then another person says you want a Black one, LOL. Then this person named Zombified Pariah, that's a troll name if I've ever seen it, says that's racist. And then another person said fragile little fella. I want y'all to understand what this person is doing here, but I think the next screenshot is going to explain it for me if y'all didn't catch it already. So this person named Lionhearted came back and said, yeah, that's racist. The doctor may dislike you or may not relate to you culturally, but that has nothing to do with his ability to treat you well. And this other person said, looks like we found the cultist. And this last comment by the name of Grace Ancrum 329 says, y'all are being hypocrites in this man's reply, LMAO. And that's exactly what it is, because y'all sat up there and heard what Tucker Carlson said and y'all agreed with what he said. But the minute that this person who may or may not be Black said that they would go and have a Black doctor treat them, y'all saying, oh, you're racist, you're divisive, how dare you. And again, like the last comment said, you're being straight up hypocrites. And I saw that quite a few times when I was scrolling through the comments. When people left a comment like that, it was probably a bait comment to see what people was going to say, and it worked just like a charm. And there's another comment that I'm going to show you that pretty much did the same exact thing. So we have this comment right here that says the Black female surgeon still had to pass certification. So I don't understand this thought. Exactly. Everyone has to pass the certifications. They all got to go through the same process. And then this Mobus person came back and replied with certification standards are lowered. And someone else replied to them saying, cite your source. And then Mobus came back with the worst type of reply they could give by saying real life experience. At that point, the conversation is over. Real life experience. That was the best thing you could come back with as a response from someone who said to cite your source when you claimed that certification standards were lowered. And your response is real life experience. Okay. Yeah. Tell me you're anti-Black without telling me you're anti-Black. And also tell me you're a moron too. Like, that was the best you could have came up with as a response. That's why I said we can't take any of these individuals seriously. You really can't. At the end of the day, Tucker Carlson knew exactly what he was doing by saying what he said. He was trying to start outrage of people because that's typically what a lot of them like to typically do. And this is exactly why I did that story about Dr. Michael Zolikofer a couple weeks ago with what he did, because again, that's a story that's not going to really get out there like that. And then you had people like Tucker Carlson saying that I can't trust a black female surgeon. Meanwhile, the last couple of times I talked about some of these white surgeons, I remember it was one where someone ended up losing their life on the table. Then you have Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk up there talking about not trusting black pilots and black female pilots. Meanwhile, when it comes to some of these unfortunately still ongoing and tragic plane crashes, every time there's a pilot that they gets revealed, they typically are a white male. And for a group of people that claim that they don't want people to talk about race so much, they typically, a lot of times when it comes to those plane crashes, as tragic as they are, they be the first ones in line trying to figure out who was the race of the person. And that way, if by some shred of their own quote unquote miracle, it's a black person, then they can go full steam ahead with the DEI claims. I swear the Dub S paradigm is one of the most weirdest ones ever. But it has worked so effectively for them for so long. And this is exactly why we're in the shit show we're in right now, unfortunately.